Hello, everyone. This is Naim, wedding celebrant in Paris, and welcome to the French Wedding Show, where it is my job to introduce to you some of the best wedding vendors in Paris and in France. In this episode today, we're going to talk about a question that I hear a lot from my couples, and it's actually, can you have a wedding in Notre Dame in Paris? So let's start with a bit of history. As always, Notre Dame de Paris, which is the classical name in French, you can translate it as Our Lady of Paris, is mostly referred as Notre Dame in France. It's a medieval Catholic cathedral on the Île de la Cité. It's an island in the Seine River. It's located in the 4th arrondissement in Paris, and the cathedral is dedicated to the Virgin Mary. It's considered one of the finest examples of French Gothic architecture. Don't think that I'm very clever. I'm just taking this from Wikipedia for context. And it's one of the most touristic, iconic place in Paris. If you're talking about numbers, there is 12 to 14 millions of people visiting the monument every year, which is an average of more than 30,000 people per day. So imagine how big and how iconic it is in the Paris unconscious mind of the universe. So Notre Dame construction was started in the middle of the 12th century and lasted around 200 years. So it has a very big history in Paris. And plenty of authors, plenty of poets, writers, painters talked about it, read about it, paint about it. It's very famous. And it's a little bit like the heart of each Parisian. I'm not a religious person, but I've grew up in Paris, and you can always tell if you say I'm going to Notre Dame that it has always a very special place in everyone's heart here. So now that you have more like a context of everything, I'm going to talk about the actual state of Notre Dame, which is not very happy and very good. In April, actually the 15th of April on 2019, which is 3 years ago roughly, we're recording this in 2022, Notre Dame suffered a major fire in the middle of the day. I will always remember WhatsApp videos from my friends that were sending me the actual situation and updates because I was working and I was not outside, and I switched up the news, and you can tell how deep it impacted us Parisians in the way of the news talked about it. They called it the 9/11, the French 9/11 actually. So obviously I'm not trying to compare any sort of situation between those two events myself, but let's say the media started to compare it in that way. So it gives you an idea of how shocked we were. Obviously it was no dead people in the fire. So once again, not comparing those two events. But it was just an impact of mostly, I think, about the symbol of a very historic place or landmark going down and representing even more than what was built. So now Notre Dame is still open, and you can visit it, obviously. But the problem is there is a lot of maintenance. And they're still rebuilding everything, and I'm not sure you can visit every place of the building. That is the information for the actual state of Notre Dame. Now, because of this, a lot of things changed regarding the place you can walk around and the place you can go in the Île de la Cité, which is a small island in the middle of the Seine. The thing is, if you want to have your wedding ceremony inside, it's not going to happen. It's too big for an elopement ceremony or for a wedding ceremony, unless you're a royal or an official or something like that. They usually reserve it for this kind of events, and I think it's very expensive to privatize it, which is probably always possible. Depends on what kind of money you're ready to spend, obviously, but most of the time it's not going to happen. So what I recommend is to have different locations for an elopement ceremony, and there is plenty of bridges in the Seine in Paris where you can have beautiful background views of Notre Dame, which is more than enough for what you're looking for generally if you have like a simple elopement ceremony. Also, we have a very special place called Quai de Montebello Quay. I'll put a link in the show notes for you to see. And this place is really good. I'm going to put also the link to an article that I wrote on my blog with some photos so you can exactly see what I'm talking about. This is the perfect cocktail for me. You have Notre Dame on the background. You have the Seine River over there right beyond you. The water flow gives a sense of relaxation that many couples adore. And this is my go-to place when it talks about Notre Dame. Voila, I hope you enjoyed, and check out my blog if you want to see pictures of this exact spot, and let me know if you want me to plan your special day with you and your elopement ceremony. Thank you so much for listening to the French Wedding Show. Have a look at my website, theparisiancelebrant.com, also in the show notes, if you want to start to plan your wedding ceremony or elopement in Paris or anywhere in France. I look forward to hear your ideas. Thank you again so much for listening, and see you soon for another episode.